Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's webinar focusing on CDFI certification. I'm Laura Van. I'm the Vice President of Cooperative Initiatives for the League of Southeastern Credit Unions, and we're just so happy that you're able to spend some time with us this afternoon. I'd like to give all of our panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves. Julie Lewis, I think, has muted herself. She's the director of the Southeastern Credit Union Foundation and is kind of handling all of our technical work this afternoon, but also oversees our community development across Alabama and community development across Florida projects. From the National Federation of Community Development Credit Unions, we have two participants, and I'll allow them to introduce themselves now.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Jules Epstein-Hebert. I'm the Program Assistant for Membership Services at the National Federation of Community Development Credit Unions. And we're just really excited to be part of this. And I wanted to thank Laura for putting this together. Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome.
I also coordinate the CU Breakthrough Consulting arm of the Federation. So if you end up doing CDFI certifications with the Federation, with our assistance, most likely I will be working with you, and I look forward to it.
And this is Blake Myers with the Federation as well. I'm a senior consultant for the Federation's consulting arm, CU Breakthrough. I also work on the technology side of things for the Federation, working on a business lending platform for our community development credit union members, and I've done some work in the past around a core banking partnership that the Federation has developed. But I've done over, as I'll talk about later on, over 50 certifications, got all 50 credit unions certified. We've got a great track record with this product, so we're excited to be sharing this information with you today. And I don't, do we have David on the line?
Hello, yes, this is David Gonzales. I'm the Vice President Compliance Officer at Suncoast Credit Union. Thank you all for attending this webinar with us. I'll be on a little later just to talk about how Suncoast Credit Union got involved with all this and our experience with the Federation and CU Breakthrough.
Great. Well, thanks again to our panelists for sharing their expertise with us this afternoon. Just a little bit of information about the community development across Florida project that we have in place. It's a partnership between the League, Suncoast Credit Union, the National Federation of Community Development Credit Unions, CU Strategic Planning, and several other nonprofit partners. And we're focused on developing and delivering affordable financial products and services to underserved or unbanked individuals and communities. And we know every credit union in Florida and Alabama is already doing this. So it's just bringing together some resources, helping to find water, perhaps some of the products or services that you're offering, and getting you positioned to get grant funding, to get CDFI certified, and then to apply for grants from the CDFI Fund. A similar project was done by Missouri Credit Union several years ago, and they have been very successful in obtaining funding from the CDFI for various projects related back to serving the underserved. So when we saw that happening, and Suncoast and several others were like, how can we work together to make this happen in Florida and Alabama? And basically, our program has three goals: to assist you in obtaining certification as a CDFI, and then to build some community partnerships throughout Florida, and then eventually doing that in Alabama with other nonprofit organizations that have similar missions and goals in meeting the needs of the underserved. You know, for an example could be Habitat for Humanity. And then we also will assist credit unions in submitting grant applications to the CDFI Fund. That initial grant writing phase is underway in Florida, and then we will begin the CDFI certification phase in Alabama very soon. And the credit unions that are participating in the Community Development Across Florida program and are in the process of writing in grants now, they're projected to apply for approximately $12 million in grants from the CDFI Fund. Losing my voice a little bit. These grants will help the credit unions grow existing successful programs that they already have in place that are designed for low wealth and underserved communities. It'll help them increase staff in areas related to lending, collections, and education to support the delivery of these programs and products to an increased market. And it'll also help them expand their staff development and training programs to make sure that these programs serving our underserved and unserved consumers will have long-term viability and ultimately improve the communities throughout Florida by helping enhance the financial wellness of consumers. So we're in phase 1 in Florida, looking to roll out, or phase 2 in Florida, looking to roll out phase 1 in Alabama, but really focus on what we can do for our members or people in our communities to help them build their financial resources and get on a path of financial wellness. And I'll turn it over now to Blake to talk about the CDFI certification.
Great. Thanks, Laura. I'm just going to go over sort of the top 3 issues here, then I'll hand it over to David at Suncoast for the case study and the partnership that we've developed down in Florida that has been going tremendously well. I also want to save a good amount of time for Q&A, and I think we can probably be easiest if we save questions for the end. I have a lot of facts and figures inserted in here, but so I'll get into CDFI basics, the advantages of CDFI certification, and then outline the certification process with you. So first, the CDFI Fund was established back in 1994 under the Clinton administration. The Federation is an organization that has over 40 years of working to improve the lives of low-income people. We're a membership-based organization of community development credit unions, and along that pathway, we looked at a fund in New York State, and then we sort of worked with Clinton to establish the CDFI Fund some time ago. The fund incorporates both regulated and unregulated institutions. Loan funds are actually the majority of certified CDFIs right now. We're working hard to change that. As I'll explain later, there are about 2,000 low-income designated credit unions across the country, and I think probably the vast majority of all those loan funds, all those credit unions, the low-income designated credit unions, could actually be CDFI certified. But the fund has awarded about $1.5 billion in CDFI funds to date. As you see, the majority have gone to loan funds, but there's still over $157 million, 11% of the total pool that has gone to community credit unions working in CDFI certified areas. So what are the main benefits of being CDFI certified? By far the top is looking at the largest grant every year since '94. The fund has ranged an annual allocation of about 100, in the hundreds, and it's typically been over 200 million per year. The maximum award grant for an individual institution under the main program, the financial assistance program, is $2 million. There's also a smaller grant, a technical assistance grant for smaller credit unions that's, I think, a little less competitive, but a higher chance of success for a smaller credit union that goes up to $125,000. And then there are the Bank Enterprise Award and low interest deposits. There are a host of other benefits that are listed below that I won't get into at this point, but I wanted to leave them in there for you. So not only is there grant funding available from the CDFI Fund, but we also see this huge opportunity with, really at its core, is about telling the work that credit unions in general do, but community development credit unions have made an explicit mission and promise to deliver services to low-income and underserved communities. And that's a marketing differentiator that the credit union can share with both its membership. I've seen CDFIs really pick up on this messaging of we're doing more than your average financial institution, and the CDFI Fund sort of gives proof to that statement in a way. It articulates and demonstrates the difference of credit unions to legislators and elected officials as well. When you think about statewide CDFI funds, a lot of it is coming first from the national level, as we'll talk about later with the Florida partnership, and then looking at how to implement statewide CDFI funds. And for community partners, for funders, both private and public, they often look at the CDFI certification as a differentiator to how do I decide to fund credit union A or credit union B. CDFI Fund is one of those check marks that can help stand you apart from the rest, whether that investor be an individual or a foundation looking to help improve low-income communities. A lot of what I'm saying here is captured in a report that our lead consultant, Terry Radigan, put together for us last year. It was sponsored by CUNA, but CDFI certification, a building block to credit union growth. You can contact me or Jules for a copy. We also have a copy on our website, but it really gets into some of the details of what I'll be going over here. So I definitely recommend you use that as a resource. I also want to put this in sort of a historical perspective, so I'll give you some background on the credit unions and the CDFI Fund. In short, credit unions have been slow to embrace CDFI certification. Grants historically for the broader credit union marketplace are not a core strategy for credit unions. I think a large exception is the majority of members within the Federation, our community development credit unions, have really seen how some of them, frankly, come to the realization when they start working with us that they don't know how much of a low or underserved market they're actually serving. They just think they're doing their good day-to-day work, but then when they look at who those people are a little bit closer, they realize that they're really hitting on a market that a lot of foundations and a lot of other organizations are looking to improve. And so while there has been a low participation in the past, it has been increasing, and I'll give you some of those numbers in the next slide. Perceptions began to change in 2010 when there was an increase in certified credit unions of 46%, and I think this only goes up to 2014 or maybe even 13, so that growth has been even greater in recent past. Last year, NCUA did a CDFI certification challenge. They provided grants to CDFIs to help them become certified. The Federation supported that initiative. We did our own CDFI challenge where we had our consultants at a special rate help to certify credit unions. And I know we'll be talking a little bit later about other opportunities along similar lines with the network we have on the call here. So this shows you some of that growth in the number of certified credit unions. We were at 118 in 2009. We're at 173. Again, we're working on these 2015 figures right now. But the median asset size has significantly increased. We have a larger number of billion-dollar credit unions that are beginning to take notice of both the community development credit union space and the CDFI space, which goes with a drastic increase in the total assets and the total memberships, number of members for the certified credit unions. So as I mentioned, I want to pull out and briefly talk about low-income designated credit unions because to me, and again, I think I'm approaching about 100 completed successful CDFI certification applications for credit unions. There are about 2,000 low-income designated credit unions across the country, and I'd say 9 times out of 10, I can pretty much guarantee that a low-income designated credit union will get CDFI certified. It's a very similar set of criteria between the two, and it's just figuring out how to match up lending data to CDFI fund mapping versus NCUA's target of membership data to low-income census tracts and areas. But it's a very strong indicator to show eligibility for the CDFI fund. And I'll go into, in the next slide, just a little bit more on the low-income designation. If you're not low-income designated, a few years ago, the NCUA sort of flipped the ruling from you have to ask us to run the low-income designated test to they already performed the test for you, and you just have to check a box to say, yes, I want to be considered a low-income designated credit union. And there's a lot of upside to low-income designation as shown on this slide, and there's really, as I can tell, not any downside at all. So it's really in your interest to go ahead and say, yes, consider me a low-income designated credit union. And then it does, as we've seen over the years, credit unions are beginning to say, well, this is actually a huge market. It's an untapped market. It's a market that's paying much higher interest than they should be, especially if they're the credit union. So low-income designated designation and CDFI certification are sort of moving and helping the credit union move in the direction of saying there's an untapped opportunity here. And that's a lot of the work we do at the Federation, helping credit unions understand and capture that opportunity. And this is a final pitch for the low-income designation. There is some regulatory flexibility written in a supervisory letter from NCUA on how examiners should look at low-income designated credit unions, and you know, the numbers don't always correlate to a larger institution that isn't serving the low-income market. You'll have, in some cases, lower deposits, higher number of transactions. You're doing things a little bit different to really serve that community. And there's language in this supervisory letter that you can show to your examiner to say how you should be treated differently. So that's a good piece of information to have on hand if you are low-income designated or if you're planning to become LID. So this is the last slide on background, and then we'll get into the actual process. We, in that paper that I mentioned before, Terry Radigan analyzed all the credit union branches, and he identified another 300 that could, without a doubt, be immediately eligible for a certification based upon their community development profile. And then again, there's hundreds more. I think virtually all of those low-income designated credit unions could be CDFI certified and have the opportunity of grant funding available to them. But I just want to make one more note on some of the details in that publication that we have available. And now I'll walk you into the process of CDFI certification. So what makes a CDFI? There's the 7 criteria that the CDFI fund has developed that all institutions must pass in order to become a CDFI certified institution. They have to be a legal entity, have to have a primary mission of community development, they have to be a financing entity, they have to define eligible target market that comprises 60% of their lending activities. They have to show accountability to that target market, usually through board involvement in the geographic area of focus. And they have to provide development services or financial education to their borrowers and their community. And they have to be a non-governmental entity. This graph shows the test that all credit unions and low-income designated credit unions automatically pass. The legal entity, there's an exemption for credit unions because obviously with all the regulation tied to a credit union, there's a clear sign that they're a legal entity and it's just providing paperwork. The primary mission is actually an automatic pass for low-income designated credit unions. Otherwise, the credit union will have to show how it has a mission of supporting community development and economic development in its community. That's usually done in a statement that's approved by the board and the president or CEO. Financing entity is an automatic test, and finally, the non-governmental entity is an automatic pass. So in the next slides, I'll narrow in and focus on those critical components of the test for low-income designated credit unions and all credit unions. So we can go ahead, one more slide. So what's left? The target market, the accountability, and the development services. I'll speak on this slide just to the accountability and development services, and then I'll dig in a little bit on the target market. This is the certification process is one that we've spent a lot of time working to streamline and to make as painless as possible for credit unions. So through the CU Breakthrough Consulting line of business, we've developed a methodology, one with a 100% success rate record, and sort of, if we can do your mapping and get your mapping right, we have this worked out to a way where we know it'll be accepted with a high degree of probability. We've also sort of outlined what the key requirements for this process. The accountability test is really just showing that your board is accountable to the community. The development services is really showing that you're doing more than just providing financial products. You're providing tools and financial consumer education in addition to that. But let me focus in on the target market piece, because that's often the most difficult piece of the process for a credit union to approve. So we'll go on to the next slide and get into the details of this. So the target market test is the most critical piece to the process. It basically says that of your lending activity, and they're looking at loans for the current year and the previous 12 months, it says at least 60% of your financing activity, both in dollar and number, must be directed toward an eligible target market. There's three types of target markets: an investment area, which is a geographic region; a low-income targeted population, which is a benchmark against an income, typically 80% of the median family income for the state, nation, or local community. And then there's this third category called other targeted populations, which is essentially identifying underserved minority groups, including African Americans, Hispanics, and Native Americans. So the thing is, you can use more than one of these three methodologies to apply. It's just that in total, more than 60% of activities will have to be directed to those three. And I'll just get into the details of each one in the next few slides. The investment area, this is the one that we usually begin with. It's a contiguous geographic unit that meets a distress benchmark, either a low and medium family income, a high rate of poverty, or a high rate of unemployment. The mapping system allows for 85% of the census tracts you create to have to be qualified, where only 15% could be unqualified. And once you draw that map with an overlay of your lending data, 60% of your loans have to be within that contiguous area. This is sort of there's an art to this process. You know, you have to upload and to kind of figure out the way to draw your map. But we've, again, streamlined this for you. So if you work with us, you give us the lending data, and we'll figure out what that target market should look like. And there's also ways to ease the workload. If you have a large lending base, we can do a random sample. We do all the process for the CDFI Fund mapping and the geocode, and then sort of the double check with the ACS income data. The next test, I believe, is the low-income targeted population. This is basically comparing your borrower's income to 80% of the MFI of, as I mentioned before, the nation, the state, or the city or region. The trick here, what we found is sort of income data usually isn't kept in the core system, and it's usually not identified whether or not it's individual income or family income. So it's a little bit trickier to go this route, and we usually save this route for as needed scenario. If there is if it doesn't look like they'll qualify purely on investment area to get that 60%, we then look at the low income targeted population, or as we'll get to in the next slide, the other targeted population. I guess we don't have, the other target population is looking at that minority group, the African American, Hispanic, or Native American, and you can do that by running a survey of your members to determine race, and then add that to your total of the investment area, which is usually our baseline that we begin with. So in short, we've done all we can to sort of streamline this process for you. If you look over the CDFI certification booklet, there's a heavy a steep learning curve in getting up to speed on all the details they're looking for. But what we've done is, by doing so many of these, really refined and figure out exactly what the CDFI Fund is looking for, and present it to them in a way that they are easily understand. And as I said, we've had great success with it so far. So we even, as I mentioned, that target market test is the one that we see credit unions fall off or pass on. So if we can get you past that first step, we can almost guarantee you're going to make it all the way through. And if we don't get you past that first step, we can run that piece of it for free. We refund if it doesn't look like you're going to certify. So it's again, for a number of reasons, for the brand awareness, for the grant dollars, for the investors. There's a number of reasons why CDFI certification makes sense. And the next slide, I think we have my contact information. Yep, you feel free to email me or give me a call at the Federation. We're in New York. Happy to talk to any of you about all of this, but I think what we're leading to here is more of a collaborative relationship where the five of us on this panel will be working together after the call to sort of check in on interest as well. So, but if you have any questions about this, I'm more than happy to help. I love getting credit unions certified and getting credit unions thinking really about the core of what they've always been there to do, is help serve the community. And the CDFI Fund is an excellent way to reap a reward for all the hard work you guys are doing. David, Laura, do you want me to turn it back over to you, or go right over to David?
Let's go right into David talking about Suncoast experiences.
All right, sounds good. This is David Gonzales again with Suncoast Credit Union. Just wanted to give everyone on the call a little, back history, I guess, of how we got involved in this whole situation in the first place. So we used to be Suncoast Schools Federal Credit Union, a federal credit union. We had a federal charter, but at the end of 2013, we became a state charter credit union and changed our name to Suncoast Credit Union. At the time, we were not low income designated. We weren't one of the special ones that got the little email from the NCUA saying, hey, you can be low income. But we actually talked to our state agency, and they said, well, you should check on it. You might be eligible. So we did check with the NCUA. They said, yes, definitely you're eligible. Just give us an Aries download and we can do it for you. So it actually turns out that 67.7% of our membership lived in low-income areas. So that was our first step. We became low-income credit union designated in February of 2014. Now, around the same time, actually a couple weeks before that, I had been doing research on low-income designation and what we can do with it. And what pops up was a webinar that actually the Federation was doing on CDFI certification. So on January 28, 2014, I watched a very similar webinar to the one that you all just saw about what it takes to become CDFI. Of course, I took this back to our senior management here at the credit union, and much like much of y'all, didn't know what CDFI was. So luckily with Blake's help and Pablo and other people at the Federation, I was able to get enough information and really convince Suncoast of the good that this can do, of all the benefits. So with that, we actually became members. So Suncoast Credit Union became a member of the Federation. So we are a Community Development Credit Union member of the Federation. I attended the Federation conference. I was in Detroit that year, and that's where I met Blake and Pablo and Jules and everyone. And actually, Blake was our consultant. So we did use the Federation to do our CDFI certification. Blake was extremely helpful. He did the mapping for us. He sent us the spreadsheets that we needed to fill out. It was really a seamless process. I just had to fill out some forms, send it over to them, and they did all the narrative and everything for us. It was great. We submitted that, and then a few months later, because it does take them a while to review the CDFI Fund, we became certified. And as some of you may know, we are the largest CDFI credit union, Suncoast is. So immediately, we had some benefits right off the bat. As many of you know, I'm in compliance, so the qualified mortgage rules from the CFPB were something that was really affecting us, and we had an exemption just for being a CDFI. So that's one of the big benefits for us. And of course, other things would be, as Blake mentioned in one of the slides, was partnering with nonprofits and other areas. So immediately, we've got other people in the area, because we do a lot with immigration, see us as a CDFI and want to partner with us, more about financial inclusion and so forth, and that's what we're really interested in. And I will give a plug to the white paper that Blake mentioned. I read that all the time, and it's a really good resource. It has a lot of good information and data in it, so I would definitely suggest that you pick that up or ask one of them to provide it to you. So moving forward, I will say how we got involved with the league. So as a CDFI and the largest, we decided that Florida only had 10 CDFI credit unions. We're the third largest state in the U.S., and we have a lot of credit unions, and we only had 10 certified credit unions. So we got with the league, we got with the Federation and CU Strategic Planning, and said, okay, what can we do? We need more CDFIs in Florida. We need more funds coming into the area to help our members, to help the community. And that's where we came up with the CDAF, Community Development Across Florida. And then, of course, we said, well, not just Florida, let's get Alabama involved too. And that's where we are now. So I'll turn it back to Laura, but I'll be available for questions as well.
Thanks, David. Where we are now, we have, I think, 7 CDFIs in Alabama that are already certified. I think we have a few of you on the call. If you're interested in CDFI certification, we just ask you to complete a 2-page application, and if you're in Florida, just get with us and we'll work with you as best we can. We'll work with you to get the process started. So you've got all of our contact information. So just, if you're ready to take some next steps or just have some questions about what those next steps are, we just encourage you to get with us and find out, how we can help you to get things going. But now we're going to open it up for questions and answers. You can, Julie will unmute the line so you can ask questions, or you can use the chat function to ask questions, and we'll be monitoring that. So just would like to get some feedback from you and find out, what we can do to get you engaged in this process. I have a question. Don't be afraid to speak up.
And everyone is unmuted, by the way, so if you did want to stay on mute, you would have to mute yourself at this point.
And while you're thinking of your questions, I will tell you that we will have a recording of this webinar available on the League website, as well as a copy of all the slides if you need those resources. And I think we had a link to the white paper in our e-signal announcement, but we certainly will have that available for you as well. So, please don't be shy. Speak up. We've got some experts on the line. This is a great opportunity to find out more about what your next steps would be.
$2 million per year. It takes 80 hours.
And just a reminder, everybody is unmuted.
So this is Blake at the Federation. Maybe I'll just reiterate what I've said before. I think David made a great point. And it does take some, if you're not the CEO of your credit union, even if you are, when you go to your board, it's something that's brand new. So the white paper is a good resource. And then there's also the test that we can run the analysis for you to see your chances of getting into the fund for free of charge. So that would be a nice way to say, look, we ran our test and it looks like we're going to qualify, and I'm happy to work with Laura, with you, and any way of coordinating that with the rest of the group if they express interest to you, doing something along those lines, and maybe figuring out something bigger than that if we can. But you have our contact information, so if there are questions that you don't want to answer as a group, I'm happy to, again, give me a call or send me an email as well.
Thanks, Blake. I'll ask again, anybody have any questions? We left a lot of time for questions and answers, and Julie, have we had anybody submit any questions via the chat?
No, it looks like we do not have any questions.
Hey, Laura, this is Marie Pete. How are you?
Hi, Marie.
Where can I find the application, and what's the approximate turnaround time from the time we contact the Federation to get the analysis for if it's something that I can present to my board as to whether or not we would be able to apply?
We can do the initial analysis, and usually we can turn it around in 3 to 4 business days, I would say.
Oh, cool.
And the process, and David, thank you for mentioning it, we really worked hard to streamline it as much as possible. So the process is really 3 steps on your end. We do this initial target market analysis, the mapping to get to the 60%, and we send you over a series of questionnaires that we've customized to collect the information we need to prepare a narrative, which we write for you, and then we give you a chance to review the narrative, and that's it. So that first step of running the free analysis is really getting you, one step out of 3 out of the way as well. It's again, we worked hard to make this as easy as possible on the credit union.
I appreciate that. I will get started soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Marie. And I believe you've already been approved for a low-income designation. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
So that tells us a lot about the likelihood of success with meeting the certification criteria. And I'll work with Blake and we'll get some more information to you.
Thank you.
Well, if we have no further questions, we will just thank you very much for attending and participating in today's webinar. Please feel free to contact any of us who were presenting on the webinar. Our contact information is back on the second slide, and again, we'll have that available on the LSCU website. Feel free to contact me or Julie Lewis directly, because until we get that contact information up for you. And again, we just appreciate you taking the time. We're very excited about the opportunity to help our credit unions gain access to additional resources to better serve your members. And we just look forward to working with you and helping you improve your communities in Alabama and Florida.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Have a great day.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, everyone.